What's up, everybody? Welcome back to our Kratom Addiction and Recovery Daily Devotional series. So I'm going to do one of the old school walking down at the beach videos for this one because I need to multitask being with Peanut and making this video. So this week we're in Exodus, and yesterday we did an overview and we talked about just some different points that we're going to be covering in this week and a half. And today we're going to be focusing on how God sets us free from our captivity and enslavement to our kratom addictions. And today we're in chapter 14, verses 21 and 22. And the Lord opened up a path through the water with a strong east wind. The wind blew all night, turning the seabed into dry land. So his people walked through the middle of the sea onto dry ground, and the walls of water rising up on each side beside them. So I've talked about my experience with kratom addiction and getting off of it before, but I'm going to do a quick recap because it talks about and explains perfectly what we're going to be going over today. So I was on kratom for 2 years before I knew that I needed to quit. I had gotten up to 40 to 60 grams per day in those 2 years, and it really caused a lot of damage to my life, my mind, my body. And I knew that it wasn't sustainable to stay on kratom. I knew that my health was failing. I knew that my relationships were failing. And I didn't know how to get off of it. I hit a point where I wasn't suicidal, but I didn't want to live anymore. And I had turned my back on God probably 20 years prior due to a lot of different circumstances. But I knew where I was at, that I needed something bigger than myself and my own strength to help me out of this captivity and this enslavement to my addiction. Come on, Peanut, let's go. Peanut, come on, let's go. Peanut, come on, you're eating too much salad. That's what we call it when she eats grass. She's eating salad. Peanut, come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Let's go over here. So I knew that I needed to get off of kratom, and I didn't know how, because anytime I would cut back on my doses, I would go into horrible withdrawals. And so in one of my darkest moments, I called out to God, Peanut, come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. What are you doing? Let's go. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Come on. Sorry, I have to multitask while we're making this video. And come on, let's go. Let's go to the beach. Let's go. Okay. So I called out to God, not the God that I had sought when I was in my New Age beliefs that I got caught up into, all my hippie junk that I had gotten caught up into, where I thought that God was in all of us, and I thought that God was in trees and in nature. I called out to the God of my childhood and the God of the Bible. And in that moment, I felt a glimmer of peace that I hadn't felt in over 20 years. And it was, like the word says, a peace that surpasses all understanding. And in my kratom addiction, I had been experiencing horrible anxiety and panic attacks brought on by the kratom, and also the weight loss and the malnutrition and the stress and the grief and everything. And so I hadn't felt peace like that in decades, especially in my addiction at that point. So when I felt that, and it was different than anything I had experienced while I was searching in other beliefs and religions and in myself and in nature, I knew that I had to figure out what it was. Ew. Oh, sorry. She like puked. Peanut, come on, let's go. That's what you get for eating too much salad. Sorry, that's gross, guys. Come on, let's go. So, okay, enough salad. We're going. Let's go. Let's go. Nope, no more. Let's go. Sorry, multitasking. No, you're about to go on the leash, little girl. You're about to go on the leash. Come on, let's go. So, I was in deep, y'all. I didn't know how to stop. I didn't have any sort of resources on how to taper, how to cold turkey. I had no idea. I knew a couple people that were taking kratom, but none of them admitted, you're grounded. You're going on your leash till we get to the water. Can't stop eating your salad. Come on, let's go. They didn't admit, though, that they were ever addicted to it. So, and that was one of the hardest things about kratom addiction for me, was that, like, it felt like this, like, weird head trip, like, alternate reality sort of thing, where, like, I'm going through this addiction, and everything that I had researched and everything that I found as far as, like, any information on kratom said that it wasn't addictive. And so I thought that I was, like, the only person going through this, and I couldn't really decipher at a certain point, like what was the addiction and what was actually, like, real life, and, like, you know, like, it like, was life really that bad? And, you know, it was all the addiction. You know, I went through, because I was so sick, you guys, when I was on it, like, I went through these, like, weird head trips of, like, you know, oh my gosh, like, I'm legit dying. Like, I have some terminal illness, and I am, like, literally dying right now, because that's how I felt physically. And so I was completely trapped. I was completely enslaved. And so I called out to God, and I just asked very simply, show me the truth. Not, you know, anything in particular, just as far as, like, you know, any sort of requests about, you know, the kratom addiction or anything like that. It was just a very basic, like, show me the truth. And over the time to follow, things started crossing my path about the gospel and Jesus. And I've loved Jesus ever since I was a little girl, and even when I was in my New Age beliefs, I never denied Jesus. I denied him as my Savior. And so everything as I started to learn about what the gospel was and who Jesus was, it just resonated on such a deep level. And over the months to follow, I started to taper. And I was praying. I first started off by praying, like, God, please help me. Like, I've gotten in so deep with this. I am a slave to this stuff. Like, please help me. And I am so sorry for what I've done, as far as, like, turning away from you and thinking that I was God, and thinking that nature was God, and, you know, all of these things that I had done. And I just went to him so humbly and honestly, and fell to my knees so many times and just cried out for help. And so, like it says in the verse today, you know, like, God parted the sea for me. Like, I was drowning in this addiction. I was literally drowning in this addiction. Come here, Peanut, let me take you off. You can be free now. Ooh, come here. Peanut, come here. Oh, I don't want to get my boots wet. Come over here. I don't want to get my boots wet. Come here. Peanut. There you go. 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 So it was like I was drowning in my addiction. And I was in this storm, this stormy sea, that was just like raging up around me. And I talked about before how like I looked at my doses as like they were like little islands, and I would jump from island to island, from dose to dose, and this sea would just be raging up all around me constantly. And so as I started to taper and pray, God just made a way where there was no way. And it was not easy. I'm not going to make it seem like it was this miraculous thing where like come here, I don't trust you, come here. Where I, was just like miraculously, like the next day I wake up and I don't have this kratom addiction. It wasn't like that. It was work. But God did part the sea for me. Come over here. Come over here. God parted the sea just like he did for his people. And the walls of water, like it said, rose up beside them, and there was dry ground on the path that led them out. And God did that for me. And I definitely, it was a lot of work on my end as well, but what I didn't have the strength to do, God gave me the strength to get through it. Withdrawals are not easy. Quitting, doing your final quit is not easy. Learning how to live life sober is not easy. But God gives us the strength to do the things that we can't do on our own. And so as we think about this verse today, and as I tell you my story about how God parted the sea of my addiction and led me to dry land, I encourage for you to think about where you're at in your process. Some of us are still in addiction. Some of us are not ready to quit yet. Some of us are on the first week of our quit. Some of us are months out, and they're getting into the long-term recovery challenges. So we're all in different places, but we all have the common grounds that we have been in kratom addiction, or we are in kratom addiction. So this community is starting to form for those of us that are experiencing this. And I encourage you to let us know how you're doing in the comments section below. And yeah, think about this today. Think about being set free from captivity. We talked about yesterday how, I encourage people to think about how their lives would look like when they reach the promised land, and what the milk and honey of that would look like. And I think a very good thing, that especially when we're in the deep, dark parts of our addiction, to not lose sight of who we could be, how our lives would look, going to the Lord in prayer and asking, him those questions too, like, excuse me, like who should I be? Who am I supposed to be? What's your plan and your purpose for my life? Let your will be done in my life. And allowing that time and that space. Surrender is a really big part of this too. Like, if I would have tried to do this in my own way, on my own terms, I would have never gotten out of my addiction. I truly had to surrender to God. I truly had to say, excuse me again, let your will be done, not mine. Because that's how I had been for 20 years was, oh, I have the answers inside of myself. And, I am God, essentially. And look where that got me. And there was an element of surrender that was so important. So today I encourage you to think about and pray about this, and to think about how you could be set free, how God could part the sea for you. And as always, I am here for you guys whenever you need it. My email is in the channel bio. And I love you guys, and I know where a lot of you are at, because I've been there before. And I'm proof that it's possible to be set free and to move forward and to live the plan and purpose that God has. So I'm here to encourage you and uplift you in the Lord. And I will see you tomorrow when we continue in Exodus. All right, bye.